That call wasn't from the parents. It was from something worse. It was Emily's first night babysitting for the Johnson family. The parents, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, had warned her that the children were a bit of a handful, but nothing she couldn't handle. Their house, a large two-story home in a quiet suburban neighborhood, was beautiful, but felt strangely empty. Emily had arrived early, familiarizing herself with the house and making sure the kids, Timmy and Lily, were tucked in before the parents left for their night out. The children were sweet. Timmy, 7, and Lily, 4, were excited about having a babysitter, showing her their toys and telling her stories about their favorite cartoons. After putting them to bed, Emily settled into the living room with a book, the soft glow of the lamp casting shadows across the room. Emily, the 22-year-old babysitter, is a college student with a part-time job. She's responsible, kind, and confident in her ability to manage the kids. Timmy and Lily, the children, are energetic and playful but seem unusually quiet once they're in bed. The parents, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson, are well off but somewhat mysterious. They leave for their dinner date with a strange look on their faces, almost as though they're hiding something. It was an hour after the parents left when Emily first heard it, the sound of the phone ringing. She picked it up, expecting to hear Mr. Johnson checking in. Instead, a raspy voice whispered through the line, "Check the kids. They're not alone." Emily froze, her heart skipping a beat. The voice didn't sound like anyone she knew, certainly not Mr. Johnson. She swallowed hard, trying to dismiss it as some prank call or a wrong number. But the words lingered in her mind, gnawing at her. She tried to ignore the feeling of unease and went upstairs to check on Timmy and Lily. She opened the door to Timmy's room, where he lay in bed, snoring lightly. She moved to Lily's room next, only to find the door slightly ajar. Emily pushed it open with a sigh of relief, finding Lily fast asleep in her bed. Nothing seemed out of place. Nothing except the strange feeling that something was watching her. Back downstairs, Emily tried to shake off the eerie sensation. She returned to her book, trying to focus on the pages. But then, the phone rang again. This time, it was the same voice, but louder, more desperate. "The kids aren't alone, Emily. They're in danger. You need to look now." Her heart pounded in her chest. She glanced at the clock. It had only been 15 minutes since the last call. Could it be a prank? Maybe someone knew she was babysitting and was just messing with her? But why would they sound so serious, so frantic? Against her better judgment, she stood up and headed back upstairs. She tried to ignore the nagging feeling in her gut as she made her way to Timmy's room, only to find the door slightly open. He was still in bed, just as she had left him. But the room felt colder. She turned, eyes scanning the corners, but nothing seemed out of place. Then she heard something, a faint scratching sound, coming from the attic above. Emily stood frozen for a moment, trying to place the sound, before she slowly moved towards the attic door. She grabbed the handle, but before she could open it, she heard a faint giggle. It was coming from Timmy's room. She rushed back down the hall only to see Timmy sitting up in his bed, staring blankly at the wall. His expression was vacant, almost lifeless. "Timmy?" Emily called softly. He didn't respond. Suddenly, the lights flickered, and the house seemed to groan with the weight of something unseen. Then the phone rang again. Emily picked up the phone, her hands shaking. "Hello," she whispered. The same voice, now frantic and urgent, screamed into the receiver. "Get them out! Now! They're in the basement!" Her breath caught in her throat. She turned and ran down the hall, bursting into Lily's room. Lily was gone. In a panic, Emily rushed downstairs to the basement door, the one she hadn't checked yet. Her heart hammered in her chest as she threw open the door, and the basement light flickered on by itself. She took a hesitant step down the stairs. A sudden shriek pierced the air. Emily screamed and stumbled down the stairs, only to find Lily standing in the middle of the room, staring at the wall. Her back was to Emily, but her face was twisted in a grotesque expression. Timmy stood beside her, unmoving. Both children were eerily silent, their eyes dark and vacant. Emily rushed to them, shaking them awake. But when their eyes locked onto hers, they weren't the same. They were cold, empty, and filled with something else, something dark. Suddenly, the children's faces changed. They grinned, their eyes turning black as their voices merged into one chilling whisper. "You shouldn't have come. You shouldn't have listened." The basement door slammed shut behind her. When the parents returned hours later, they found the house exactly as they had left it, except for one disturbing detail. Emily was gone. The children were in bed, fast asleep, with no memory of anything that had happened. Confused and terrified, Mr. and Mrs. Johnson made a call to the police. But there were no signs of forced entry, no trace of Emily anywhere in the house. The last thing Emily's phone showed was a strange message from the Johnsons. "We told you not to listen to the phone calls." The police found nothing, but the whispers could still be heard, drifting through the walls of the Johnson home. Whispers that no one could explain. And Emily? She was never found. Some calls are meant to be ignored, not answered. And some whispers are louder than they seem.